Hello lads and lasses, Lumar here, and today we're going to be having a quick little overview of the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign story. This isn't any structured, heavily detailed thing, this is just some quick thoughts that I've had and my general opinion on it. So yeah, let's just get into the video. But before we get to actually talking about this game's story, just a quick little thing is, I never understood why they bothered to reboot it. I don't know why they needed the Modern Warfare name, because it's not like the original Modern Warfare trilogy is very old. And not only that, but they've remastered the original and Modern Warfare 2 quite recently. Which means that when you talk about this game, it happened with the first game. You get very muddled. You have to say Modern Warfare 2019 instead of just saying Modern Warfare. And it's just very strange because apart from the character names, the only thing this has in common is like vague, very vague plot points. Like a rogue Russian unit, and it's, there's terrorists in the desert and shit like that. If you changed the names of all the characters in Modern Warfare 2019 to just something completely different, like I would have had no idea that this is supposed to be Modern Warfare, you know what I mean? They could have just called it like Call of Duty Special Forces, something like that, and like I would never have guessed. Like, I wouldn't see any similarities basically, which is a shame, because I thought once you get past that, Modern Warfare, it's like, if you just look at its story by itself, it's decent, it's good. But they used the Modern Warfare name, and that feels more like they used it for recognition, because Infinity Ward, the past two games, they weren't the best from them, so I feel like they got a bit scared and used this for the name recognition, try and get people interested in their Call of Duty again. And yeah, it didn't need that. It could have just stood by itself. But now we've just got we've got 3 Modern Warfares, and we've got 2. Well, actually no, now we've got 3 Modern Warfare 2s. And then the next game, Modern Warfare 3, that's probably going to get remastered as well, at least the campaign. And yeah, they'll make a remake, so it's just, I always thought that was a bit weird. So I'm just mentioning this now because I'm going to bring, this vagueness in like relation up again. But yeah, so first we'll go over the pros and then the cons, and then I'll go through the characters and then my overall thoughts on the campaign. So yeah, pros. For a start, I liked how they did Task Force 141 this time, in like the start of the campaign and the middle of the campaign basically. In the original Modern Warfare 2, you see what I mean? I have to keep referring the original 2009, that sort of shit. It's very annoying. But yeah, in the original, you did the snow level, you did 2 levels in Brazil, and then it was just fight Russians, and then the plot twist happens, and then it's fight Shepherd. There's not a lot of covert operative special forces sort of stuff going on, which I feel is a real shame. Especially because at the end of Modern Warfare and the start of Modern Warfare 2, 5 years has passed, so you could have had a lot of interesting stories and things like that, but they skipped over that, and then there's the World War 3 thing happening. So yeah, I liked in this game, you're going around, you're doing covert stuff, you're doing special forces stuff, you feel like an elite unit basically. A lot of interesting set pieces and different places in like the world, that sort of thing. So yeah, as I mentioned, my next point is there is a lot of variety in this game, and in fact the mission where you fight the Mexican army, the ghillie suit mission, and the mission with the convoy, they are probably some of my favorite Call of Duty missions ever. Like, I really enjoyed them. A lot of variety, well paced, different stuff. Yeah, they were very good. I mean, it's, you know, I love snow levels, so obviously when there isn't any, you know, that's a bit heartbreaking, but that's just a personal preference, and, you know, there's still a lot of variety to the missions without needing that, which I think is good. Yeah, the graphics, the cutscenes, the mission designs, all looking great. You know, the graphics, they're really making the most out of the new hardware, things like that. And then my final good point would be that they do expand on characters in this game that were in the last one. I'll get to that more in the character section. But yeah, they took them, and if they didn't keep them consistent, they showed a change, basically. Like I said, I'll get to that later. So we're going to start cons now, and just the first one that came to the top of my head when doing all this was you get dialogue choices during the missions. I don't know why. All of this could have just been like natural dialogue that plays out, but for some reason you have to choose what dialogue happens. And the thing is, you can only choose one option. It's not like you ask quests, you know, it's not like you get to choose all three off the prompts. So you're not going to hear all of it on the same playthrough. You're going to have to restart to listen to all this dialogue when it could have just been a natural conversation anyways that happens without your input. The only time this is, you know, needed is during the interrogation scene, but that could have just been its own special thing. You know, yeah, I just don't really get why they did this, and I'm not, you know, there's not a replay value to it really. You can just ignore it entirely and nothing would be missed that much. My next point would be bugs. I don't have footage of it here because unfortunately I had some issues with uploading and keeping it and things like that. But I mostly noticed them on the ghillie mission, which is annoying because I really love the mission, and without these bugs it would have been much better. So when you're lying down, a lot of the time it's fine, but you can see vehicles moving through the grass, and I don't mean you can see the vehicles, I mean you can see like the pixels, like even if you're behind a hill, if you're looking in the general direction of where the car is, you'll see it moving like through the ground. You'll see pixels moving across your screen even when you shouldn't be able to see them. And then sometimes they get out of the vehicles, they do a quick patrol, and then they get back in. Unfortunately, for some reason, mine just didn't get back in, they just stayed there, so I had to break the whole immersion and like go full assault on them, which was annoying. Another thing is there's a guy who constantly walks towards you during the first patrol thing. So when you're lying down, doesn't matter whereabouts you lie down, it can be in the patrol route or you can quickly move out of it and just lie down in the grass. He will follow you. So it took me about like 4 or 5 different times to realize that I have to actually like move out of his way, otherwise he's going to keep walking into me and killing me, which that was very annoying. There's also a lack of objective markers sometimes, like for instance towards the end of the ghillie suit mission there is one final patrol that leaves the warehouse, and then it's like special forces, so they're in like heavy gear and stuff. The game doesn't tell you that you have to kill these people. They will endlessly walk towards you if you hide, and then they will shoot you on the ground, so you have to engage them, but the game doesn't tell you that. So in the story, for some reason they just let the terrorist leader go. They make a deal about how your joint task force did something illegal and you couldn't actually like arrest him, but he was illegally in the country, and you know he's blown people up and killed people and stuff like that. So I don't really know why they needed to let him go. They should have just kept him, but I mean, maybe I missed a detail or something. It just felt very contrived that they would let this terrorist go. And finally, as I mentioned before, the first game of this reboot just didn't have anything else to do with the original Modern Warfare. And now it seems like in this game they just went out of their way to throw in as many references and similarities as possible, almost to try and justify it being called Modern Warfare. You know, so obviously there's the ghillie mission. There's, you know, you're on an oil rig doing stuff. You're doing a prison rescue. You get betrayed. Makarov will be the main villain in the next game, Modern Warfare 3, just like he was in the original one. And yeah, it just seems like they realized they had to justify calling it Modern Warfare, and then they just shoved all this stuff in, like the betrayal. Like no one knows any, from what I can remember, no one knows any information about the illegal deal. It's only until after they get betrayed that all this gets found out. So they betrayed them when there was no need to betray them. They just did it because it happened in the original. Because the girl they've got, I can't remember her name at the moment. I will, don't worry. She's just a courier. She even says she doesn't know the names, and everyone else, apart from, I presume, the main terrorist guy, everyone else who knows about it is either dead or they're Russians. But that would mean that the Russians would have to admit that they killed a bunch of Americans and stuff and stole it, which would start a war probably, so they're not going to talk. So there was literally no reason for this betrayal to happen. So it just feels incredibly shoehorned in, just to try and justify calling it Modern Warfare 2, and I think that's just a detriment to it, because up until the betrayal scene I was really enjoying the campaign, but that's just me, I guess. And then finally, I would say another main gripe I have with the story is that towards the end, it's the second to last mission, Graves, he shows up in a tank, and your characters, you're playing as Soap, and I believe it's Rodolfo, he's with you, and then they see the tank approaching and it smashes through a concrete wall, and then for some reason they decide to jump in with the tank instead of retreating. So they trap themselves in. The tank doesn't immediately just demolish all of the wooden training structures, and then you just sort of run around. You have to wait until you pick off all of the minions that get sent in to take you out, otherwise they'll kill you. And then you just run around and throw C4 on it, on the tank, and then that's it really. It just felt a bit stale, and I don't know why they did it. They just sort of needed a boss fight, so your characters are idiots and they just jump in. So yeah, that lowered it a bit for me. So now we're going to start with the characters. I'll start with the old characters first and then move on to the new characters introduced. Let's start with Price. So Price, he doesn't really get a lot of development, but at least he remains consistent. He remains the same old Captain Price as he was in the first one. It's just he's less of a mentor in this one. He's more, because Jay grows, so he's more of a friend, and you know, he's joking about more and all that stuff. Yeah, he's the same. He's leading, he's joking around with you more. He's got some good dialogue and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing really wrong with him. Not a lot of development, but he's still a solid sort of character. So next up, you've got Jay, or Gaz, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, in this one, he's joking on a lot more. He seems to understand the nature of the work, and he doesn't question the morals or philosophy of it anymore. He's taken a bit of Price into him. He's grown. He's more experienced and mature, and he's making decisions, things like that. And he's more jokey in this one, more relaxed. So yeah, I think it's a good natural progression from what we saw in the previous game. Next, we have Kate Laswell, and yeah, this character really surprised me in this one. In the last game, she was more mission control for Alex. She just sort of showed up in the cutscenes and, you know, gave him whatever information needed the plot to keep going, basically. And she didn't have a lot of dialogue, didn't have a lot of character. Here, she's a full character. She's, you know, we get to see a bit more about her morality and philosophy. She's going out in the field, she's trying her best to make things right and, you know, save lives in the end. You know, we learn who she is and why she does the things that she does. And yeah, I really enjoyed her character. I would enjoy seeing her a lot more in the next game, and I hope we do. Farah, she is back for one mission, but she's sort of like a stagnant character in this. We don't see much of her. She's still just fighting for her country and leading rebels and stuff. Yeah, she doesn't get a lot of screen time. She's got like 2 minutes in the cutscenes, and then there's some dialogue during the mission, and then that's it. She's not in the campaign anymore. Nikolai, he's got even less screen time than he did last time. He shows up in, I believe, only one cutscene. He's got a few lines of dialogue throughout the mission, and then he's done. He's gone. You don't see him again. So I can't really say anything about him because he's barely in the game. One thing that did surprise me is that Alex isn't in here. Like in the last game, he said he was gonna help Farah, and he chooses to stay in the Middle East and not go back to the US. But here, he's just not with Farah. Like, we know he survives. He's in the Warzone cinematic, and he's got a missing leg or whatever. But he's just not here, and the game doesn't even mention him, I don't think. So yeah, I'm surprised he's not in, but whatever. So now we will start with new characters, and to kick us off, Hassan. He is the bad guy, and he is very generic. You know, he's annoyed, he wants revenge for all the conflict that's happened in the Middle East and against his country. So he basically just wants to blow up the US, and that's about it. That's all I can really tell you about him. You know, he's a bit of a smug guy, intelligent enough to plan all this out, but apart from that, we don't get much of him. Soap, I just didn't like him in this game. I mean, if people do, fair enough. To me, he's just a bit whiny. He seems a bit immature and inexperienced. It seems like they do another rookie arc with him, like he's a new guy, and Ghost is the mentor in this one. But I don't really understand why that is, because he got picked, like he was notable enough to get picked by Price at the end of the last game to be in Task Force 141, and he's been in it for 3 years, so I don't know why they decided to make him like a rookie character in this game. And yeah, he's just a bit emotional and immature, and he's a bit whiny basically. But another thing I don't like about him, like if people are fine with it, cool. I just don't think his voice acting is the best. Sometimes it'll be fine in cutscenes and stuff, but other times it's like they're trying their very best to sound gritty. You know, it's like if I say, for instance, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," like you can tell that that's my natural voice and that's like just how I sound. But if I go, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," like you can tell that that's not my natural voice. Like I'm making it try and sound tough, but there's something not quite right about it. Like that's what I get from this guy. No disrespect to whoever plays him, but it feels, you know, it might not even be his fault. It might be because of bad, you know, voice direction. But yeah, that hurt the performance for me as well. The next character is Alejandro. I really like him. He's a fish out of water sort of character. Like he's special forces and used to dealing with like the cartels and stuff like that, but he's not used to dealing with all this international terrorism sort of stuff. And we get to see his sort of raw reactions to that. And yeah, he's not used to all this high stakes stuff, and it's nice to see an outsider react to that sort of. He's a very down-to-earth sort of guy. He wants to change Mexico so, you know, children don't have to grow up the way he had to grow up. He's very caring about his men and justice and things like that. And yeah, he's a solid character, and it was nice to see him interact with the people in this world. So yeah, he was good. There's also Rodolfo. I'm not really sure how to say it. He is with Alejandro most of the time. There's not a lot to his character though. He's grown up with Alejandro, and they've both joined special forces together, and he has the same sort of ideals and stuff. We just don't get to hear him talk about it a lot. He's more of a sort of morality pet to Alejandro. He helps to get Alejandro's sort of like personality and emotions out during the campaign. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. He serves a good purpose for what he is, basically. Then we've got Valeria. That's who I was thinking of. She is the cartel sort of leader. She's a smuggler, something like that. She has a very mysterious femme fatale sort of vibe to her. You know, she's sexy and deadly, that sort of thing. But she's also very intelligent. You know, she's a different sort of character than what you see in Call of Duty most of the time. And I liked it. She's got a lot of potential. We don't see her do too much in the story. But, you know, they say she might come back. So if she's in the next game, it'll be good to see more of her, basically. But yeah, I like what she did in the story. So now we're getting to the characters who I have the most problems with. So these characters, so first off we'll start with Shepard and Graves together, because they're basically the original General Shepard, but split into two people. So there's like Shepard, who has, you know, obviously he's in charge, he's doing the logistics, he's leading the men, that sort of stuff. And then there's Graves, who in the original Modern Warfare 2, Shepard, he was on the battlefield a lot. He was getting his hands dirty, that sort of stuff. Graves is that aspect of him. And they try to be, you know, Graves is friendly and they both try and be reasonable. But then they decide to betray you despite having not much reason to do that. I've already mentioned why. You know, there's not a lot of chances of people finding stuff out. Valeria, she doesn't know or care who gave the missiles, and the Russians, you know, they're not gonna admit to doing this. So I don't know why they betrayed them, basically. And then, despite betraying them to try and keep stuff secret, they then decide to basically purge an entire town for no reason apart from corrupt. But that doesn't make much sense because, one, people are definitely going to find out about it. You know, there's cameras, people will be recording stuff on their phones, things like that. You know, it's pretty pointless because they start massacring civilians as well. And I think when you're going to kill civilians, that's going to cause a lot more outrage than a simple, you know, whatever this deal was. And then, yeah, Shepard, he's less impressive. He makes a few threats, but he doesn't really have anything backing him up. And yeah, at the end, they just sort of like forget about him. He just disappears, and they mention that he's like gone into hiding or he's not a general there anymore. But that's about it. Not much else. And the final character, Ghost. I don't know why, but if the promotional work and the front cover doesn't give it away, the people behind this game have like a massive hard-on for Ghost, and it's awful. In the original Modern Warfare 2, Ghost wasn't that special. He was just Gaz, and we really liked Gaz, but they killed him off. So they said, let's make Gaz again. So Ghost has the same personality, same role, same voice actor, just he had a skull balaclava on. And he was likeable enough that when he was killed, we felt sorry for him. That's it. Firstly, the voice actor does what is needed for the character. I still think it's ridiculous that the original voice actor got fired for basically no reason, especially as Activision have shown they're even bigger cunts about that than he is, but whatever. I think that Samuel Raukin, he did a good job with what he was told to do, basically. They wanted like a mysterious, grizzled, dark voice, and that's what he gave the character, and it's not amateur sounding. But his design is just so edgy. Did they go for more skull balaclava? No. they needed him to wear this massive heavy looking poncho constantly, like even in the desert, like he's wearing it, you know, and he has to wear like a full face mask, and then he's got some sort of like ceramic skull stapled onto the front. Like, it screams original character do not steal, but it's somehow made even worse by the fact that this technically isn't an original character. So, who is he and what is his impact on the story? Well, he has sort of like a mentor role to Soap, and he provides like support throughout the campaign when he appears. That's what his role is. In terms of who he is, we don't really know a lot. You know, the original, we didn't know a lot about him either, but unlike in the original where it's just not brought up, like you just do missions with him, there's no conversations with him. Here, they are just constantly alluding to who he is, what he used to do, all that stuff. And they give enough to make him sound dark and depressing and edgy, but not enough to actually give him a character. And they just constantly make like a big deal about his face and stuff. And when they band together at the end, they decide to wear little ghost masks and call themselves Ghost Squad. And it's like, it's so like cringy and forced. And they just worship this dude for some reason, and I don't really get it. And the thing is, they set up something that would have been a really good joke. It's mentioned in one of the campaign missions that Soap thinks he wears the mask to hide his scars, or that he might just be really ugly. And a good joke, and like possibly a very good subversion of expectations, would have been in the final cutscene in the bar. So when they're in the bar and they're slowly panning over to where he is, what they could have just done is they could have just like shown his face, and he's just like some ordinary dude. Like, there's nothing wrong with him, he doesn't have scars. Like, I'm not saying he's like gonna be like supermodel handsome, but like he's decent looking, he's fine. And like the joke is that he's just a normal dude who literally goes out of his way to look as edgy as possible, just because he thinks it's funny to scare the shit out of his enemies. Like, and that's it. That would have been the joke, and it would have been good. But no, of course, in a bar when he's not on mission, and when these people have already seen his face, he's just there wearing a skull balaclava in the bar because he's an edgelord, and the writers are just shilling for him for no reason really. Like, in the sequel to this, if this is all they're gonna do with his character, just make him be this again, like, I'm not gonna have any interest in him whatsoever, because it's not interesting. It's just being edgy and like trying to tease fans about who he is. But you can't just have that in a main character. You need like substance, and he has nothing at the moment. So yeah, that's just like a basic sort of review of it. I would say that the campaign and the story in that, it's good for the first 2/3 of the game. You know, and then from the betrayal mission onwards, I don't know, I think that's just a downgrade really. But you know, play it, you might enjoy it better than I did. Obviously there's certain people who still like Ghost and Soap and all that stuff. So yeah, I would say it's decent. At least it's decent. Obviously they're gonna go with Makarov in Modern Warfare 3, so I wonder how they're gonna take that on. Hopefully it'll be better than this remake of Modern Warfare 2, because it's, yeah, I would, you know, the original Modern Warfare 2, it gets a bit out of hand with how many like set pieces and spectacles and stuff there are. But I didn't hate it, but there's certain points of this campaign that I do hate. But there's also certain points of this campaign that I absolutely love. So I would definitely recommend checking it out for yourself. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to this little, I guess, rant about the story. You know, I haven't really wrote down a specific script, and this is very sort of relaxed, and there's not a lot of detail in it compared to what I usually do, but hopefully you enjoyed it just the same. There are fireworks going off in the background, so sorry about that. Yeah, If you enjoyed, you know, maybe consider liking, subscribing, that sort of stuff. But yeah, hope you have a pleasant day, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.